Shannon Coenen, President and co-founder of Global Outreach Foundation. Over this last month, you have been hearing from different missionaries involved with GOF and learning about their families, learning about their ministry and what they do. And now it's my turn. Even though I am president of the organization, my husband Joseph and I are still considered missionaries with GOF. Joseph, for the last 20 years, has been an air traffic controller, much of it spent out in Colorado. Just recently, just this last November, he took a new position, still with the FAA, but a different kind of work out here on the East Coast. So this last November, my husband and I packed up everything from Colorado. We moved out here to Harpersville, West Virginia, which if you look on the map, it's kind of where West Virginia and Virginia meet, as far east of West Virginia as you could possibly have. Beautiful, beautiful part of the country. So we now live out here and we're getting used to humidity. We're getting used to more traffic, but we're really enjoying the area out here. We have a dog, our four-legged child, Zeno. He is the mission's wonder mutt and he loves just hanging out in the office with me every day. So that's kind of who we are at this point. We'd really appreciate your prayers as we continue to transition into this area. For any of you who have moved, you know that it takes longer than a month to get settled, to make new friends, find a new church, all of that. But the Lord has been gracious to us and moved us into an area that we're only about an hour and a half from some of Joseph's family. We have found an absolutely incredible church out here, and they have been a huge blessing to us. We hope that we can be a blessing to them as well. It has been really interesting being out here and seeing some of the challenges of this area. You know, there's a huge expanse between those who have enough to sustain themselves and a huge gap from those who don't. And so it's been kind of interesting for us to see that gap and really begin to pray through, Lord, how do you want to use us in this area? How do you want to use us to minister to the people of this area, even as we minister to people around the world? You know, when it comes to my job, much of my time is spent here in the States. In fact, here is a picture of my computer screen of what it looks like often throughout the day. I won't even bother to show you the rest of the desk, but it's an active day. I'm interacting with donors. I'm keeping our website updated. I am tracking the finances that come in and out. I'm keeping in touch with our missionaries and our national pastors, hearing the issues that they're facing and spending time in prayer about those things, sharing prayer requests with all of you, planning the direction of where things are going and meeting as much as I can, meeting the needs of the missionaries and the people that we serve. So it's a very, very involved, I never really know what's going to happen from day to day. I can plan my day and it's often meaningless by the end of the day as to what comes in. I love it. I wouldn't give it up for the world. But it's a side of missions that a lot of people don't think about. And when you look at the workings of a church, you'll have a pastor. Often there's a pastoral staff. There's administrative people there to help with things. But our missionaries don't have access to that. And so that's a lot of what I do is help provide that administrative support for them and to free them to what God has called them to do. God has called me and gifted me to be a kingdom administrator. And so that's a huge part of what I do and how I spend most of my time is taking on those things, even as Stephen and others did in the book of Acts. They realized there are some practical things here that need to be met that we're not called to meet. We need to find people that are filled with wisdom and filled with the Spirit of God to handle those things so that we can be free to do the other things that God has called us to do. It's not demeaning to hand things off. But if I'm perfectly honest, there are times that I have to remind myself of that because sometimes I can get so absorbed in the day-to-day stuff that I forget about the impact that it's having worldwide. So that's something you can pray specifically for me. Is a way that the enemy loves to get at me is that, you know what, you're not making a difference. Look, you're just sitting behind the desk. But then when I see all of the numbers come in, when I see the phenomenal things that God is doing around the world, and I realize that's happening partly because of me as well, it's overwhelming. Look at me, I'm getting emotional already. But it is very powerful to see what happens over the course of a year through this ministry. Never in a million years, when I helped co-found this ministry, did I think that we would be seeing sometimes hundreds of thousands of people coming to Christ in one year. It's pretty incredible. But I get out from this desk. I am involved in ministry, and it's the thing I live for. It's the thing my husband and I love, is going overseas and taking part in the work that God is doing overseas as well. Joseph will sometimes help with pastoral trainings. Many of the pictures that you see and have seen over this last month are pictures that Joseph has taken. And I'm so grateful to him for that, because it's really hard to be preaching or teaching and taking pictures at the same time. But he's so good at that. And he loves going down and praying with people during altar calls and when other things are happening. Children just flock to him. It's amazing to watch it happen. So it's a real joy for us to be able to go around the world and meet the national pastors that I am emailing throughout the week, to be able to interact with them and see firsthand the challenges that they're facing, to see firsthand the work that the Lord is doing, and to be a part of that. He has given Joseph and I a teaching and preaching ministry as well, where I have preached crusades. I've taught at pastors' conferences, and to be able to have that be part of my job is just awesome. Like I said, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I also have the privilege of leading the board of directors. These people are just, I wish every one of you could sit down and have dinner with them. They are a phenomenal, godly group. And we've got Sal Villagran. He's been with us almost since the start as treasurer. He and his family are actually transitioning from Colorado to Oklahoma City in the next month. So please be praying for them as they make that move. They're about to embark on the same kind of thing that we just got done doing. We've got Shelley Jones, who is our secretary. Very spirited, lovely young woman who just loves the Lord. She goes to Guatemala frequently and ministers at orphanages there. She's also transitioning. She is moving out to Georgia. So if you would be lifting her up in prayer for the transition she's about to take as well. And then we have one person that's remaining in Colorado, and that is Steve Ferrante. He is a pastor in Estes Park, so obviously involved in ministry. These three are so full of wisdom and so full of godly direction, not only in their own ministries, in directing their families, but also for us as GOF. They are incredible sounding board. When new ideas come, they are not afraid to say, not a good idea. And so please pray for them collectively, that God would continue to use them as his voice, not only in their own ministries and in their own families, but also for GOF. We rely on their wisdom a lot, and they are just great people to have around. So please continue to pray for them, that the Lord would speak through them, and the Lord would continue to guide them in all the things they have going. So I've talked a bit about who Joseph and I are and what we do, and some of the challenges of our position. I would really request that you would pray for full funding of GOF, not only full funding of all of our missionaries, but the funding for the organizational costs as well. It's one thing to go out there and fundraise for orphans, for widows, for church building, but it's completely different game to try and go fundraise for things like paying for the audit so that we meet the state compliance, paying for the expenses necessary to maintain our nonprofit status. Those kinds of things are a huge part of ministry that really kind of get shoved under the carpet. So I would ask, would you please pray for full funding of missionaries, of the organizational costs? Because without that, it's really hard for us to expand and go to the different places that we feel we're supposed to be going. It's when the funding is there that we know, all right, God's behind this and we can proceed. And sometimes we just take leaps of faith and God brings the funding in as we're going. So help us to increase our faith as well as we seek the Lord and step out in obedience of where He wants us to be. I want to thank you so much for being a part of this concert of prayer. I don't take it lightly, the time that you are giving and dedicating and sacrificing in prayer. I want to thank you from my heart and certainly on behalf of all the other missionaries as well. You're a very vital part of this ministry, and we cannot do this without you. It is your prayers that sustain us. It is your prayers that encourage us, and it's your prayers that launch us forward. So thank you so much, and we enjoy having you be a part of this. Have a great day.